Welcome to the Recover You podcast. I'm Kylene.
And I'm Patrick.
We are a couple in recovery
From sex addiction
and betrayal trauma. Together we share our story to encourage you on your journey. It's here that we talk about sex addiction, betrayal trauma, mental, emotional, and physical health, faith, and anything and everything needed to recover you to your most authentic self that God created you to be. Welcome to this week's episode of Recover You. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Kylene.
Take 3 is a charm.
Take 3, yeah.
We're going to make it happen this time.
Take 1 was me rambling. Take 2 was you laughing. And take 3 is me summarizing.
It's going to be the
first 2 takes.
It's going to be the one we keep.
Yep. This is a keeper.
All right.
Let's go. Let's push through.
Welcome, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you.
What are we going to talk about today after much discussion?
I think I've forgotten.
We're going to talk about the healing mindsets that we see, that we think separate those who become successful in recovery versus those that don't.
Yes.
So what you were talking about in the episode that we started and is now this episode,
Yes.
You were talking about, go on, how...
No. The reason she's laughing is I think I went on a little long in the first version. So,
but feel free to do a truncated version.
Yes. Okay. The truncated version is. Listen, I do believe that you can recover, but I think you have to do the work, and I think you really have to have a desire to heal. And so we're going to talk around the mindsets that are really, really helpful as you go through this long process, and that has a lot of twists and turns. And in a particular day, can feel like there's no fruit to the activity that you're. It can really feel that way at times, and so we just want to re-highlight. And I know we've talked about a lot of these through the years, but just re-highlight the mindsets that help you recover, that help keep you consistent, and help keep you moving when things aren't easy, because that's inevitably going to happen.
And I would say the idea with this one, we're kind of coming from the angle of what's going to help a recovering addict become successful in getting into recovery. But I would also say that I really think most of these mindsets apply to the betrayed partner or just to humans in general that want to transform their life into something better than it is today.
That's true.
So I think we can maybe even tie that in a little bit. But there was also another episode that we recorded, and then I get all funny if I don't think things were worded a certain way or that I didn't feel comfortable, like I'm like, oh, that didn't hit exactly the way that we wanted to hit it, then we don't air it. And so but in one of the episodes that we had recorded, we talked about the little baby monkey that has taken the world by storm.
Punch?
Recently, Punch, yes.
Punch, yeah.
And I had told you about this little baby monkey. He's so sweet. And our hearts just go out to him because he was rejected by his mother. Mm-hmm. And I was telling you this story about how he was rejected and it was so sad. And they gave him this plush monkey from IKEA. And how that became his little safe place. And then he was attempting to bond with other members, and he kept getting rejected. But eventually, there were some other monkeys that started to accept him a little bit, and so he's starting to spend more time with his group. But it's still actually a little bit up in the air. I don't think he's been fully accepted, but there's been these moments of healing, So anyways, I was telling you the story and you had an awareness around it.
Yeah. I said you get, Punch was wounded in community. His mother rejected him, and now he's starting to get healed in community.
Right. Yeah. And I think if we really want to take this analogy as far as we can take it, we'll say that the stuffed animal was his coping mechanism.
Right.
And we all have to hold on to, there's always a purpose. There's always a reason for a coping mechanism. And usually it is survival in some sense, or perceived survival or perceived safety. And we always keep it until we can feel safe in another environment. And so even now you sort of see he'll leave the monkey and then go off and hang out with these other monkeys. But then I think he's still holding on to his plush. I meant he'll leave the plush and then go over, but he'll come back to it. So yeah, it's just interesting. I think sometimes there's these little analogies that you can take, these visuals that you can take about, why do we hold on to things that, that stuffed monkey is doing absolutely nothing physically for him, but emotionally it created this place of reassurance, right? So will he need that his whole life, or will he be able to get that from this community? And when he gets that in a real tangible way, in a way that he's designed to interact with the other monkeys over time, if that's provided, will he eventually completely get rid of this coping mechanism, Yeah. So anyway, there's another analogy that we can think through as we move through the recovery zone.
Absolutely.
And we hope little baby Punch survives and feels loved in his life. Yeah, he's so cute. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention was we're talking about mindsets today, but if you are new in your journey or anywhere in your journey and you haven't really utilized a lot of practical, tangible tools yet of how to get into sobriety, go back and listen to episodes 67 through 71. It's a 5-part series that we did that was the daily tools for recovery. And these were things that the recovering addicts can do, tangible homework, actionable items, stuff that you can do to begin getting into sobriety and moving into recovery. So definitely check those out. And then now we're going to jump into the mindsets of, the people that succeed, the people that make it into recovery. What does that look like? And the first mindset is one of taking responsibility or ownership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think with that is and I guess you could say there are people who are discovered, and there are people who self-report, and there are people who, and I'm talking about a relationship status, right? Mm-hmm. So then that starts that process. There are single people who come in and say, hey, I want to live a different life, or they hear something and they start that process. But I think I think from a relational standpoint, they take responsibility. They start to take responsibility for the hurt that they've caused. And then from an ownership standpoint, they start to say, okay, I'm responsible for my recovery. They may not know what happens or what the next step is. Like, I remember that. I was like, I'll do whatever it takes to do this, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to listen, right? And that was a little confusing because sometimes people can give bad advice to you or good advice and that sort of thing. But I was willing to do anything. So I was willing to own that process. But you see that with people who come in and they take it seriously and they say, I'm going to do every free resource that I can. Maybe I'm financially strained, or if I have the financial ability, I'm going to go ahead and pursue therapy as frequent and as often as I can because I know that I need to do this. So I think taking ownership means you're responsible for your behavior, no one else, and you're responsible for the pain you've caused. Therefore, you're fully responsible for your healing. And that doesn't mean you do it all yourself. That means that you go out and you seek the resources. And maybe you didn't know at the time when you were in
it means
secret addiction.
There is no one else that made you do that thing. And there is no one else that can force you to not do the thing or to get into recovery.
That's right.
And I see, like, it's just a human thing. Like, in the world, you see when people struggle to get into recovery, or when people are slow to get recovery, or they don't get into recovery. A lot of times what you will end up seeing is the opposite of this, which is stuff like, well, isn't my partner partially responsible for the fact that I wasn't feeling nurtured in my relationship, and she really wasn't hugging me enough, so I felt like I needed to go get a hug from my secretary and I had an affair, right? Like, you see this convoluted way of shifting responsibility. And I had this in, there's a TikTok comment on one of the videos that I made where someone said, well, actually, we are sometimes partially responsible for our betrayal. And I was like, whoa. No, you're not. I don't care what situation it is. You could have the worst relationship in the history of the world. You are not responsible for the actions of somebody else, period. It's just, I get so frustrated that that's a confusing thing. You are not responsible for other people's behavior. You are responsible for your behavior. So if there were issues in the relationship prior, you can take ownership for, I need to work on my emotional regulation. I need to work on my communication. I need to work on these things. But those things did not equal someone cheating on you.
That's right.
That did not make that person do something else. Period. End of story. Okay. The responsibility for the behavior is on the individual that makes the choice every time. The person that looks at pornography, the person that compulsively masturbates, the person that has the affair is responsible for those behaviors. You are not.
Yeah.
And then we are responsible for what we do with the betrayal. That's what we're responsible for. And so, on the flip side, we have to take responsibility for, okay, well, now this thing that I did not invite, that I did not ask for, and that none of my behaviors prior is an excuse for, has happened in my life. So now how do I respond? And, we see people respond in a variety of different ways, right? So, but that is what we are responsible for. Yeah. So I think that applies across the board. We live our lives. We're responsible how we engage with other people and the choices and the actions we make. But when we see the alternative, I want to justify this, I want to qualify it, I want to minimize it, that's the same behavior that people use inside of the addiction.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I think that when people struggle, like you're still engaging in the same kind of mindsets that kept you stuck in the first place. Mm-hmm. You got to get out of that. You have to take full and complete responsibility for the fact that you did this thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's you talk about like, it's not your fault. You do hear this sometimes as men move through recovery. They're like, yeah, but my wife used to do this. And I'm always like, well, sure, because not everybody is perfect all the time. I mean, nobody's perfect. You are, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But not everybody communicates the way that not everybody is attentive to your wounds, maybe when as much as you would like them to. But that's where you approach that person in a kind way. And say, hey,
it's not from the place of, I just blew up your world.
That's right.
Let me tell you 10 things I don't like about you.
Yeah.
Let's have a little bit of common sense when it comes to the awareness of what's happening in her life right now. Mm-hmm. I think like the timing around that is so critical because it's like day one you're discovered and day two you want to go like, well, but we argue a lot.
Yeah.
So again, that's like you have to take ownership of the fact that like this mess is your mess.
That's right.
It's your mess. Now, the relationship is separate. There may be another mess in the relationship. We're not saying that doesn't happen.
Right.
But there's a lot of relationships where the actual marriage part of it is fine.
Yeah.
And this is the only thing that's actually wrong. So I think, there's a spectrum with everything, but there is a definitive line in my mind. I don't care where your relationship is on the spectrum. At no point does it cross the line into the partner who's betrayed being responsible for the betrayal.
Yeah.
There's just never any excuse for that.
I remember you saying like, and I'm going to paraphrase and I might even get it wrong, but like was I not even sure if he said that, but something like, was I not enough or something like that? And I remember telling you really early on, like there was nothing you could do. There was nothing you could have done. This is all on me. This is, you know what I mean? And so like, I think, I don't know if that helped you in the moment or whatever, but like I was trying my very best to take 100% accountability for what I had done. You know what I mean? And here's the thing is you were always super nice to me. We struggled a little bit relationally when it came to raising Keegan because of the blended family and some disagreements, which I didn't really know how to navigate because I wasn't healed.
Yeah,
right? I wasn't healed.
We've learned more now that we would have approached things differently then.
Right. I think we're very supportive with each other and things like that. And so certainly, we would have done a better job. And maybe you can argue that we both had an opportunity to be more healed and more cooperative in our raising of Keegan. However, that didn't justify me doing what I did.
Right. Well, here's the other example, just to kind of flip it back the opposite direction. So you cheated on me and you did all these things and I had all these feelings about it and I felt unloved. I felt unchosen. I felt all these kinds of things, right? And I've said this on the podcast, like through the process of recovery, there were times where I was like, man, I just really want to go like, what would having an affair be like? Or I want to get attention from other people. Or like there were these thoughts that would pop into my head, right? And so had I acted on those things, that would not have been your fault. That would have been my responsibility. If I had acted on that, that would have been my choice. Now, there were things in the relationship that were pricking my wounds and bringing that up in me. But my decision to act on that is mine to own.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's just an example of how that, goes both directions.
Yeah.
All right. So the second mindset would be whatever it takes. And you kind of mentioned this. I was kind of laughing when you were saying, because you like rolled a bunch of what we're going to talk about into the first point, but that's okay. We'll still break them down and talk about it. They all intersect so much is the reality of it.
Yeah, I think when you talk ownership and accountability, it is the word.
Right.
Those are the two words.
That really encompass everything.
Yeah. And just a shameless plug. Everybody go out and read Extreme Ownership. It's just a great book. But
By Jocko Willink.
Jocko Willink, yeah. So it really does kind of say, hey, if you're dealing with some things in your life, think about how you can change the way you communicate, how you can all these different things. But
so the mindset of whatever it takes. One of the ways that manifests is by doing the homework. So I was talking to you before we started this podcast and like, hey, what do you some of the things that we see that people do that get into recovery, right? And one of the things that you see other people do when you think about the guys that got discovered or confessed or whatever the situation might have been, come into group, and then boom, they get into recovery, they stay in recovery, they're not relapsing, they've gotten to a place where like they're solid and their relationships are good and all these kinds of things. And you're thinking, well, what do they do? And then also, what did you do? And oh, look, they were like really similar paths. And one of them was that you got connected to a group and you did every single step the group told you to do.
Right. Yeah.
Like if there was a homework for the lesson, you did the homework. And then I remember down to like you telling me, oh yeah, like this video that I watched, or maybe it was in the book that goes along with it or whatever. They say you need to take 5 deep breaths, or you need to deep breathe for 10 minutes before you go to bed at night or something like that. There was some breathing technique that they wanted you to do, right?
Yeah, it was 15. It was 10 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing before you went to sleep. It was so effective with me. I think it was always like 6 minutes. Because I would fall asleep.
It doesn't take
away.
you much. Yeah. I could see one deep breath because we'll be watching a show on Netflix or something, and then I'll stay up and I'll watch a different show, and literally 30 seconds, Patrick will be snoring. Like the show will be over, he'll roll over, start snoring. So you fall asleep really fast. But my point is, something as small as, hey, there's a tool that that we suggest before you go to bed to sort of like clear your mind and calm your body. And they probably didn't walk into like, this is actually going to help your nervous system and slow down your, they probably didn't give like 10 minutes of explanation. They just said, hey, this would be good for you. And you were like, I am on it. You tell me to do some deep breathing before I go to bed, I'm doing some deep breathing before I go to bed. And then there's like a page of homework every day. I'm doing the page of homework every day. There's a moment of self-reflection where you're supposed to like think about, how does this apply to your life? You would do that moment of self-reflection, right? And so doing whatever it takes is, maybe you think something is silly. Maybe you don't know how the breathing is going to impact you. Maybe you don't know why that's good for your body, but somebody says, hey, this is really helpful for you, right? And it's part of a structured plan, right? Like, is it something from your therapist? Is it something from a group? Is it something? And I want to make that like, because you mentioned this earlier, I think, was sometimes the advice we get is, can be from well-meaning people that don't have the education, right? So do be mindful of like, is this from somebody that's aware of addiction and recovery world? Is this from a therapist or a trauma-informed person or someone in my group who's been like somebody who's had experience in this, like lived experience? Because those are the people that whatever they say, you kind of want to do. Those are when it's a structured recovery plan.
Right.
And there's tools. And again, we've listed out a lot of those tools in episodes 67 to 71. So go back and if you don't have those yet, go back and look at those tools.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the mentality of whatever it takes, I think is like really, it is important because as the partner watching you, I could feel that. I knew that I could tell that when I found everything out, I was not the only one that was destroyed. I could tell that you were so distraught over this thing in your life that you didn't have control over. And it really bothered you. And so when you started getting information and resources, I could also see that you were like obsessed with the learning. And I also saw if I would come back, whether I was reading a book about it or with my therapist or my own internal boundaries or whatever, if I would say, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z, you would do it. And there was never any question of, if this makes you feel safe, I will do it. If you want, even you've mentioned when we talk about the polygraph the night before, because you were really nervous, even I hesitated. And I know on this podcast, I come across as boom, 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 firm, firm, firm. And I was in a lot of ways, but I even had those moments where I was like, I don't know, I'd never done this before. I was like, is this, should I force you to do this? I can tell that you're sincere, like you're doing all the right things. And then you were still like, no, I know this is going to help you feel safe. I know that this is going to help me step into integrity. I'm going to do it. Whatever it takes to show you that I am willing to do the hard things. And that is a mindset of like, when you have the mindset of I'll do whatever it takes, life will probably get harder before it gets easier.
Absolutely.
Because whatever it takes to recover is so uncomfortable. That's why we haven't done it yet.
Yeah. I remember spending all that time doing the work, and so now as I lead groups, you can see, you can start to tell which guys are going to click in right away,
Quickly.
which guys are going to take a little bit, and so everybody's different. Everybody has a different pattern. Everybody has a different betrayal story. All of our addiction story, but I would say 100% of the time, the guys that show up and they open to when we open to the assignment, and you can see in their book it's all filled out. They're ready to go, and
because what is that? What if you see that? What is a word that comes to mind? What is that communicating to you?
Well, they're taking it seriously.
Dedication.
Dedication.
Priority.
Yeah, right. And then
They've
you see,
spent the time.
Right. You see other guys that will come in, and sometimes they forget their books, and they won't have their study guide with them, or
now listen, as an ADHD person, I have a little bit of compassion for forgetfulness.
Yeah.
But when something is really, really important, what do? We find ways to make it happen.
That's right.
You have to put a reminder in your phone, or you have to set something next to your bed, or whatever. You do what you have to do. If something is, this is a great example of that. My mom, when I was younger, I had glasses from a very young age. I can't see. I'm very blind. And so they got me glasses. And then eventually it was like, I got braces. Well, my mom, in her compassionate heart, was like, well, let me give her contacts so that she doesn't have to have braces and glasses at the same time, which thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. But it's funny. So she was resistant on the contact thing because she thought, oh, you're going to lose them. And I said, Mom, that is so important. I will not. And guess what? Never did, because that's something you needed. It was something that was necessary. It was something that I valued and prioritized. And so, you figure it out.
Yeah.
You get into a habit and you figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and you're right about this, because there are people who are very good at remembering things, that position things, that think 9 steps ahead, and there are people who don't. So that doesn't mean you're a bad person. That just means, to your point, you create other systems to maybe help you with that. Maybe you always, if you're in a Conquer group, you always keep your Conquer books by the front door. Or something like that, and they're always there. Or maybe you do the work in your car at lunch, so it's always in your car, so you don't forget to take it to group. You know what I mean? So there's, part of this as you're going through this process is you're developing awareness. Now, I also have seen, when guys will go through a couple rounds, is they'll do a round where they just listen, and then they'll do another round where they really dig deep and they go through, and that's okay too. The point is engage. I will say the ones that just listen the first time, that don't do the work, their progress is a little bit slower.
Progress,
yeah. And so
because you're not applying. The point with all the tools and the homework and the practical application is the absorption into your life.
Right.
We can hear something once and have a completely sincere heart and try to absorb that. But the way our brains work, something usually only clicks when we've heard it 7 to 12 times, deeply. Yep. And so it's, I heard it in the video, and then on day 1, it said it in the homework. And then on day 3, it had me write something about that. And then on day 5, and then by the next week, we have the check-in and they ask me about it. And oh, wow, now it's really resonating.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that's why that's important, is because actually looking at educational material or hearing a word or thinking about a concept multiple times is actually what makes it register. Like right now, before this, I showed you the tap steps that I'm trying to learn for the show. My head explodes when I'm trying to learn a new tap move because it's very foreign. It's a completely different language for my body. Dance and stuff like that is just, it's a foreign language. So it takes me time. But I also know that if I do it long enough, slowly enough, for 30 minutes at a time, and I'm doing this step really slowly but consistently, that eventually I will get the step, and then eventually I'll be able to speed it up, and then eventually I'll be able to do it with the group, etc. So the other day when I was rehearsing, it was just my brain could not understand the pattern that my feet were supposed to go in at the time that I started. And then I kept doing it really slowly over and over and over. And I did for like 30 or 40 minutes the other day, just real slow. And by the end, my brain wasn't exploding.
Yeah.
So I wasn't up to time, but my brain wasn't exploding, right? So it's like, okay, I got the pattern now. Now I can build on that. And so that's why it's like the repetition from different angles and without an expectation of going from 0 to 1,000 is like really important.
Yeah.
And that's what the homework kind of stuff does. Right. That's what the breathing does. That's
Absolutely,
what helping your body get calm, and out of the limbic system and into regulation does, and all of those kinds of. That's why there's always purpose behind every suggestion.
Well, I also think too that sometimes folks will view recovery as an afterthought. It's a hobby, and it's not a hobby. It actually, if you want to do it well, it's got to be a priority. It's got to be a top priority in your life. And certainly you need to provide shelter, food, and for your family if you've got one, and yourself. But it's an absolute priority.
Yeah. I think for both people,
Yeah.
healing is going to need to be a priority if you're in a relationship. Okay, the third mindset is I want to do better. And so I'm thinking of this as like internal motivation. If somebody is getting into recovery because their partner found them and they want to appease the partner, but they're not personally convicted that what they've done is wrong, or that they want to do something better, or whatever it might be, right? If it's not a personal motivation, 0% chance of success in my mind.
Yeah.
Like you might get into like a really difficult sobriety, but it's not going to be comfortable for you or your partner, right? The only way to get into a truly free state of being where everybody feels, what's the word? I just said freedom. I didn't want to say it again, but that's the only word I can think of. Freedom. When you're in a state of like this, my life is in a healthy, integrated, authentic, aligned, like I'm good with me, I'm good with my behavior, everything's in alignment, my partner's safe, like all these kinds of things. Emotionally, we're regulated, all these kinds of things. That only is going to come when you have the internal motivation that's where you want to go.
Yeah.
And that there's like a purpose to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the vision. The vision is, what is it that you want to be? What is it now that you're starting to get exposed to tools, and maybe you don't understand where it's all going to go, but what's your vision of what you want to accomplish? And so that's why it's always important for people to think through that. Like, what is it that I, now that I'm in this healing journey and I'm day 1, day 5, whatever, what do I want the outcome to be? Not as it relates to other people, but to yourself. How do you want to show up in the world? And then as you do that, that'll actually help you as you kind of move forward. If you say, hey, I want to be able to provide safety for those around me, physical, emotional, and psychological safety. I want to be able to develop all those skills and tools for those around me, no matter what the outcome of the relationship is. Then you'll pursue that. If you want to say, hey, I want to get to the point where I never even look at this stuff again and I feel good. Like I didn't understand, like that was my initial motivation. I want to stop the behavior. And then I discovered wounds that I didn't really think I had. And then I discovered that. And then I was like, oh, okay, I want to process these wounds because I don't ever want to go back there. So it still kind of went back to my initial goal. Like, I don't want to do that again. And so processing the wounds helped me not go back there again.
Well, that's actually a really good, I think that's a really good visual or analogy to the difference between sobriety and recovery. Initially in sobriety, you're motivated away from the behavior. That's the idea, is you're motivated. I don't want to do X, Y, Z. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to. The shift, one of the shifts from sobriety into recovery is now you're not motivated by, I don't want to be that thing, or I don't want to do that thing. You're motivated by, I want to become a better person. I want to shift into, and that turns into a growth mindset that is there for the rest of your life.
Right.
So that, I think, a mental and emotional shift is really, really big, because actually it's, I think the towards motivation, it might seem softer sometimes than away motivation. Like away motivation is dramatic. It's scary. It's like if I do this thing, I'm, my relationship is going to implode, or I'm going to feel shame, or I'm going to feel guilt. Like it's a very dramatic, like away motivation can have like all of those high emotions, right? The chemical reactions in your brain, all that kind of stuff. The towards motivation might feel less interesting in terms of it's like more gentle, it's a softer thing, but it's got more longevity.
Yeah.
That's what takes you into recovery like forever, is this constant self-analysis of what's happening in my life that I don't like. What do I want to be better at? What are the tools that I need? Who do I need to be around? How do I like grow into becoming a better person? And that's the shift, I think, is we all have to start at, well, I don't want to do this behavior and I have to develop new habits, but eventually that has to shift in, okay, I'm not doing this thing anymore, but who do I want to be? And I don't want to be ruled by fear of going back to that thing, because fear is always a draining motivator.
Yeah.
And it often will also lead to other unhealthy things, like, well, now because I'm not stepping into recovery, I'm just in sobriety, and it's the away motivation and I'm motivated by fear, then we might also have anger. We might also have frustration. We might also have like all of these other things that are showing up because we're not shifting that towards motivation of like, well, I actually don't like that I haven't processed my anger and I want to move through that, and what are the tools that I need to do that?
Yeah. And they talk about this in the 3 circles tool too, as well. It's like your green behaviors have to be all the things that are really, really healthy. And you've got to have more stuff in the green than you do in the red. And so that's kind of what you're talking about. It's like, hey, the destination you're moving toward has to be, it should seem full of life and full and very, very appealing. It, like my initial was, hey, I didn't want to do it anymore, but then I wanted to become safe. And that had a broad discussion. I mean, that had a broad range of definitions to it. You know what I mean? And safe means highly empathetic, high EQ, the ability to be patient, all of these different things that I developed through my recovery process. And it was much more than just not doing the behavior.
Well, and I think taking it out of sobriety language, it applies to humans and betrayed partners too, right? Like our initial motivation is to get out of the trauma of the shock of discovery, to get out of the constant hypervigilance of feeling like the other shoe is going to drop. We want to get away from those things. We want to move away. Like that's our huge motivation. And a lot of times, man, all of us want to snap our fingers and say, if I do this thing, can I feel better in 3 months, right? We would speed that up so fast. It's a slow process. But as we go through the process, eventually we also have to click into the towards motivation. Okay, now he's in sobriety. Now I have safety. Now boundaries are being respected. Now these things are that I was moving away from, the danger is gone, right? And so now I have to move towards, well, what do I want? What does health look like for me? What does health look like for our relationship? What helps me feel creative and inspired? And what brings feelings of joy? And how do I live a life that I feel very fulfilled in outside of the relationship? So again, as we're moving through, whatever happens to the relationship, like, am I good with my mental, emotional, and physical healing and the life that I'm creating for myself? And so eventually that kind of shifts away from the fear into the creation of, who we want to be.
I think, you mentioned in that the towards motivation for the betrayed spouse, once safety is established, they need to have that too, even if their partner can't get sober, whatever. They need to develop that forward motivation because that's good for them. And so like that, just what that might look like in a relationship that's not safe is it might mean more boundaries, more requirements. It might mean separations. It might mean whatever that is to move in that direction of health for them personally.
Yep. Okay, the fourth motivation is, or the fourth mindset is that I need help. It's a mindset of knowing that you need help and that you can't do it on your own. And you've talked about how like that wasn't your mindset in addiction, how that was part of the fuel that kind of kept the addiction going, was this belief that I should be able to do something on my own. But the reality is we're literally created as human beings to be communal beings. We are designed to learn from others, to our nervous systems set and reset with people. And so they kind of, whenever you walk into a room, you go, man, I just felt funny, right? Like you feel the energy of other people. We're designed to interact energetically and communally with other people. And we're often designed, like you said at the beginning, we get hurt in community and we heal in community. And it's often being surrounded by other people, whether it's with their love or compassion or their ability to listen or whatever it might be, that helps us take the next steps, or their wisdom if there's somebody that has been through it, or is a coach or a therapist or somebody that has some tools to help you. So the idea of like, I actually need help is the opposite of weakness. It is a strength to be able to say, I need help, and there are people out there that can help me.
Yeah. My life pattern, my success that I achieved, and then also my wounding all pointed to I have to solve all of my problems myself. And there were some, definitive hard things that happened in my life that kind of reinforced that a little bit. There were some times I had to solve things on my own, but this was like the worst thing in the world to have that mindset in. And you're absolutely right. We need people because we can't understand it. And I'm thinking about this, like I'll be sitting there in the groups and a guy and his wife will just be in real emotional difficulty. And I always ask the question, how many days are you into this? I'd be like, 45 days. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be hard for a while, but they need me to
say that, to give them that perspective.
Right. Over 5 years to say, hey, it takes a long time. It's, you're doing great work. It doesn't just shift. You may be doing everything right now and everything, and your wife is just still upset and you're going to have to sit in that for a while. And so, but they need me to reassure them there. I mean, that's a really important thing for them to do that. But,
and that's, again, why we reiterate that you're around people that know the deal.
Right.
People who have successfully moved into recovery, people that either have done it themselves and or help others through being a CSAT or a coach or a therapist or whatever, or a group leader who's successfully in recovery and has a process. Because there are a lot of people that want to come alongside you and encourage you, but don't have the tools, the resources, or the practical lived skills to actually normalize things for you or to challenge you or to give you something that will help you through the barrier that you might hit next month. Right. And so that's why we always say, like, make sure that you're thinking through who it is that you're getting advice from, because there are too many situations where I will have a client come in and they have reached out to people for very, and it's the most normal thing in the world. One of the most common is like couples counseling, right? That's like the most, everybody in the world knows, hey, if you're having problems in your relationship, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Couples counseling, right? It's like the first thing. If you're in a faith community, maybe that's the second thing. The first thing might be go to your pastor, right? Both of those things in betrayal and addiction, not that you can't go to your pastor, but that shouldn't be your primary source of healing advice, because both of those situations with betrayal and addiction, those are not people that are educated in the trauma of betrayal, and they're not educated in how addiction works, and they're both not educated in how to help somebody heal from that. And so they can give you advice, but some of it might not even be neutral. It might be harmful. And we see that a lot when people don't have the education and awareness around trauma. And a lot of it lands on the victim and causes a lot of problems. And so I just see that happening a lot, where people will come in years later and it's like, well, you do what you can with the information you have. And that's why we do the podcast, is like the information's not out there. We want to make sure you're connecting to safe resources, which, by the way, go to recoveryoucoaching.com. There's a whole page actually of resources for the addict, for the betrayed partner. And if you're far in your journey and you're not doing recovery stuff per se, you're moving kind of away from recovery stuff and into the personal growth stuff, there's also a section for that too. So that's available. What were we talking about? I need help. That was the mindset. I do need help. Okay. Yeah, I think that's an important mindset. Like the past couple of years, I've had that mindset as well. Like I don't know everything. Like I don't know everything about ADD. I don't know everything about how to have difficult conversations. I don't know everything about, how to manage this or that or whatever. And so I've reached out to people that can help me. And once I identify I'm struggling with this thing and I don't like it and I want to change it, I'll try to find somebody that can help me with it. Right. Yeah. So I think, again, it's less addiction and betrayal. It's more like, if you don't like something in your life, like these are the mindsets that help us change who we are as a human being, because we are changeable. Right. We are transformable. We can all become someone different. Like if you think about who you were in college, for example, I feel like was that even like, is there a cell in my body that was like from that person?
Yeah,
I think differently. I act differently. I behave differently. I dress differently. Like everything about my life, that version of me versus today is so totally different. Yeah. So we change, right? Why? And there's no point in life where that's different.
Yeah.
We all have the capacity to be a different person if we are running into reasons that we don't like
Absolutely.
who we are
Yeah,
or what we're
yeah.
doing.
Well, you know, and you know, even outside of the addiction side of things, you know, you occasionally you'll hear some folks who have been really successful through their lives, and they'll talk about, hey, you've got to reinvent yourself. And so because what worked, you know, in your 30s may not work in your 40s, and you got to, you know, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? What do I, you know, how do I lead an organization if that's what you are? Or if you're a welder, how do you become more efficient at welding? I mean, you know, you have to kind of go through these reinventions over time. And because not every situation is the same, you know, decade to decade to decade.
And I think that's scary, the idea of reinvention, right? One of the most common fears that a human has is the fear of the unknown.
Right.
It's scary. One of the reasons that we get stuck in the unknown is because our brain, in its attempt to protect us, goes, well, the unknown has all of these really negative possible outcomes. But what the brain doesn't automatically pull through, and this is where we have to sort of think about intentionality behind things. We always have to question when we're feeling stuck about something. The reality is there's a million positive options in the unknown. Our brain will only focus on the scary ones because it's trying to protect you. But that's not fact. It's not factually the only thing that's available. It's not factually what will happen even. We don't know what will happen. And so you always have to counter, like, this thing that I am so scared of, is that true? Like, is that a fact that this thing that I'm scared of is the only option? This is the only thing that will happen? Because usually it's not. Almost every single time there's a million other possibilities, and we don't know what those are, but we can't say that the bad thing is what will happen. But that's generally how our brain works, is in an attempt to protect you, I'm going to give you the highlight reel of all the things that could go wrong.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Like you and Keegan are going to go skiing on a ski trip. And in my brain, I'm like, I'm not doing that because my knee's going to twist. I twisted my knee in 2014. It's been an ongoing problem, and I'm not willing to twist that. My highest value right now is to protect my knee. Right?
Highest value
in
all time.
In that situation, right, is to protect my knee. I would rather protect my knee than ski. And that's a choice. That's a conscious choice I'm making.
Yeah.
But if I challenged that belief and I said, hey, the fear is that I will fall. Well, the reality is I could do specific exercises to train my knee before I go. I could wear a brace. I could only stick to the bunny hill. I could take some classes instead of going on my own. I could I could take a class and say, that's it, I'm done for the day, right? There's all sorts of things. If I wanted to, I could make that happen.
Right. Any other number of options.
Yeah. So, but I decided that my value is getting a massage.
There you go. That works.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If you had internal conflict, we could question it.
That's right.
All right. And the last mindset we're going to talk about is I want to be a healthy human. And in your words, you worded it as you wanted to be a safe person.
Yeah.
But I think we could word it either way. I want to be a safe person. I want to be a healthy person. And we've talked about, what does that mean? Like, you have to actually define that, right? I think sometimes we go along in life just letting life happen to us instead of us predetermining what it is that we want to step into. And it's really important that we predetermine, because what we bring into our mind is then what we become aware of. So if we're not looking for ways to improve, if we're not looking for ways to be healthy, if we're not actively searching for these things, then we won't find them. But it's like when you go to the grocery store and you say, I want to try a new fruit, and you scan the aisle for a new fruit. You find a fruit that you've never seen before, and you take it home and you try it. And then every time you go, you see that fruit again, but it was there the whole time.
Yeah.
You just became aware of it because you made a decision that said, I want to look for this thing. Right? So there's so many options and so many opportunities in our life for growth that we're not noticing because we're not looking for it. And whether that's a book that a friend recommends, or a podcast, or an activity to join, and then you end up meeting someone, and then they end up encouraging you, and then they connect you to like a really great resource over here. Like, there's so many ways that are possible within this that we just have no idea. Right? Yeah. So deciding that we want to be healthy, I think it's important that when we say something as vague as that, that's intentionality behind it, but it's vague. What does that mean? What does healthy look like? And for you, you defined it as being a safe person.
Yeah, and you know, over time, I could put meat on that bone, and so you know, it was things like, you know, I didn't want to do the behavior, I didn't want to hurt people, and then it extended to like, you know, I want to be a resource where people can come to that they can almost like regulate their emotions with. You know what I mean? I want them to feel like, hey, when they're in my presence, they can calm down, that I'm not like getting on them, that I'm, you know what I mean, that they feel warmth, you know what I mean? So there was ways to kind of further define that. And so, like, I want kids to feel safe around me. I want animals to feel safe around me. You know what I mean? And so it just, it started to expand beyond what that was.
I would say that that's happened.
Yeah.
All of our nieces and nephews, our pets, other humans, it's like everything gets near Patrick and takes like a deep breath. They're like, oh.
It's that diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
They're doing that.
They love it.
Yeah.
It just feels relaxing to be around you. And I think, that can manifest in a lot of different ways. The idea of I want to be healthy or I want to be a safe person. So you just defined like what that meant for you. We've talked on the podcast about what the vision was for our relationship. What does a healthy relationship look like? And then for me, I'm constantly on this journey of like, how do I become a healthier human being?
Yeah.
And how do I become authenticity is one of my top values in life. And I want to be the most authentic person, because to me, that means like that encompasses integrity, alignment, all of these things, right? Like alignment with my values, and like I just show up with integrity as myself. And, and what does that challenge? Well, it challenges my old pattern of people pleasing, right? And so like that, or keeping the peace, or not saying something in the moment, right? So I'll just absorb that as opposed to maybe trying to navigate it in the moment. And so that if I say consciously that authenticity is, or alignment or whatever is my priority, then because that means I want to be a healthy person, then that's going to challenge some of the ways that my brain has wanted to respond in different situations. But knowing that that's my priority, then maybe I ask someone to help me think through, how do I have these conversations? Or how do I like stop feeling stressed in these situations? Or how do I navigate XYZ? And then I challenge myself to put that into practice, right? So it's this constant idea of like, what is happening? What are the feelings that come up that I don't like or I don't want to live with the rest of my life? And like even recently, I had identified some patterns, and there were like 3 relationships in my life where I felt similar kind of emotions and stress around. And when I was talking to somebody about it, I noticed there were all these patterns. But in reality, those 3 people were, I think, hitting on similar wounds inside of me. And so it all comes back to, okay, like, well, what are these areas that either I have difficulty with or are unhealed wounds that haven't been addressed yet, right? So
Right.
yeah, whether it's a coping mechanism or an old pain point or just a pattern that we're familiar with, right? There's all sorts of ways that shows up. So when we define, hey, I want to be healthy, and then we get really clear on what that means, sometimes that also means that that's going to put a mirror turning around going, hey, there's this area in your life that's kind of challenging that right now.
Yeah. And I give you a lot of credit through the last 5+ years of recovery. You've always, as we've moved through different phases, you've always sought out resources that'll help you personally, us as in the relational standpoint. Like you kept going, and you were like, I don't like this. I don't like, we had talked at one point about OCD at Disney World back in 2022. And
gosh, was it that long ago?
yeah,
Wow.
And so you didn't like that. You wanted to work on that, and you've gotten better. You've gotten the help that you need. And so, the point is like, it's not always on the addict. It's like we all deserve to have a mindset of growth and a mindset of a destination that can offer a vision that's better than what we have today.
Yeah, I think that's what healing ultimately offers us. Right. And so those are, looking back, those are a lot of the mindsets that we see kind of take people, pushes them out of sobriety and into the recovery mode. Yeah. Taking responsibility and ownership, being willing to do what it takes, having this idea that I want to be a better person. There's that internal motivation. Admitting that they need help, that we need community, we need wisdom from other people, and deciding that we want to be healthy, and then kind of setting a vision around that and defining like, what does that actually look like? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, welcome back, Patrick. Thank you for,
it's good to be back.
Yes, having this episode with me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, check out recoveryoucoaching.com. If you are a newly betrayed partner, there is the What's Next course that is available, and that is specifically designed to help you through the initial phases of creating that stability, setting boundaries, navigating the process. And if you'd like to check out the resources page, there is a link for some resources for the betrayed partner to get connected, for the addict to get connected. There's books on there. There's all sorts of lots of amazing resources. Other practitioners that, if you're like, I don't want to work with you, Kylene, but I'd like to work with somebody else, there's other people listed on that website as well. So go check it out. And every day is a new opportunity to choose health and freedom. Make that choice today, and we will see you next week. Woohoo! If you're listening to this, it means you've made it through an entire episode. Part of recovery is spending time engaging in healing and self-growth activities. We are thankful that you chose our podcast to be one of those activities today. Make sure you reward yourself for that accomplishment. If you've enjoyed this episode or this podcast, we would love to hear from you. Please take just a few moments to leave a rating and review, letting us know your experience with Recover You. We not only love hearing how these episodes are helpful, but ratings and reviews help others just like you who are searching for recovery information and support find the podcast too. We can't wait to hear from you. See you next week.